CTV News with Mitsumi Takahashi.
Good evening. A law was tabled today in Quebec in the hope that it will help women who are living in fear of their partners. Bill 4 will allow women to find out whether their partner has a history of violence and to be able to get help. The bill is known as Gabby Renault's Law, in memory of a woman who couldn't get that help. Sweeta Rassi has details.
For Rachel Renault, it was an emotional day.
We will remember her forever.
Her sister, Gabby Renault, was found dead in her Saint Jérôme apartment last September. Gabby's partner, who has a history of violence, has been charged with the murder. Standing beside Rachel is Nancy Boucher. She too was a victim of intimate partner violence by the same person, who did spend 3 years in prison. They've been calling for better protection. And today, the CAQ government officially tabled Bill 4. It allows anyone in a relationship who is fearing for their safety to request information from the SQ on their partners and even ex-partners' history of violence. It also allows a parent to access information on behalf of their child who is at risk.
We want to be careful because it's not the confirmation that the partner is the right partner for you. We're just saying that we've been looking into it and we're sharing the criminal background.
Here's how it would work. The person at risk or the parent can fill out a form online or at a police station. That application will be reviewed by provincial police, who will gather relevant information. They will then share that with a support organization, who will then share it with the person who filed the request and provide any necessary supports along the way. The process is entirely confidential. It's similar to Claire's Law, which has already been implemented in several Canadian provinces. Since the beginning of the year, there have been 10 suspected femicides in Quebec. Advocates, along with Quebec Solidaire, have been pushing for this bill.
This bill is an important step, but to prevent feminicide, it's not only one action, it's multiple actions.
For Rachel, she's hoping this bill will make a difference.
It makes it that my sister is not dead for nothing.
While there are details to be ironed out, opposition parties are in favor of the bill. The province hopes it gets passed and put in effect sooner than later. Sweeta Rassi, CTV News, Quebec City.
A Montreal lawyer is facing several sex-related charges, and police are looking for more possible victims. 72-year-old Danielle Rochefort was arrested after communicating with an undercover police officer who was posing as a 12-year-old girl. Police say Rochefort had accounts on several platforms using the name Danny Rock. He's also accused of sexual assault and making child sex abuse material. A dog in Montreal has died of Parvovirus. Veterinarians are now urging pet owners to make sure their dogs' vaccinations are up to date. Here's Matt Gilmore.
At the Montreal SPCA, veterinarian Gabrielle Carrière says reports a dog has died of Parvovirus are worrying.
It's very deadly. More than half of dogs that get sick, if they have no immunity, they will die if they get no treatment.
You would know a dog has parvo because he's vomiting and not feeling well. Yeah. This one seems fun.
Parvovirus attacks the immune and digestive systems. It's common in Montreal, but Carrière says thankfully a vaccine exists and is effective. But for dogs without up-to-date shots, it's easily spread.
It's in the feces, so if an infected dog walks around, it can leave some viral particles in the environment. So it's on the floor, it's outside, it's everywhere.
At the Girard Park Dog Run in NDG, these dogs are all protected, but their owners say it's still something to keep track of.
I think he was vaccinated. He gets vaccines every year. I think he is vaccinated for it, but I'd be scared that he gets it anyways.
I'm not really worried, no. It doesn't seem like there's an epidemic of it happening right now. But if there does, then maybe I'll be a little more worried.
Both say allowing their dogs to run around and socialize is important, but plan on double-checking with their vet. Carrière says so far this year, the SPCA has not seen any cases in dogs, but has already treated 16 cats with the virus.
The parvo that infects dogs can be transmitted to cats, but the ones that cats get cannot be transmitted to dogs.
For Carrière, the fact a dog has died in Montreal does not necessarily mean there's more of the virus around. It's not new and can live in the environment for up to a year. But she says it's an opportunity to get a message out that could save families from heartbreak.
To speak to your vet, have your vaccines up to date, and your animals should be fine.
Matt Gilmore, CTV News.
Police are looking for a driver who struck and killed a pedestrian and fled the scene. They plan to send up a command post Friday on Goyer Street in Côte-des-Neiges. A grey Honda Civic sedan hit a man who was crossing Goyer just before 1 on Sunday morning, April 26th. Police say the car headed east on Goyer, then went down the wrong way down Darlington to flee the scene. Anyone with information is being asked to call InfoCrime. The cost of appliances could go up this fall. That's when the final phase of Quebec's Consumer Protection Bill comes into effect. Retailers in Quebec are calling for a delay. Matt Grillo reports.
This product would have to have a 6-year warranty.
Anthony Amiel is president of Corbeil Appliances. He's showing off some of the store's more affordable items, but these prices could soon look a lot different. The final phase of Bill 29, aimed at better protecting consumers, comes into effect in October. The law establishes a legal warranty of good working order.
Depending on the duration of warranty that is required, we think it'll be anywhere between a 10% to a 30% increase. It all depends on the quality of the build and how long the warranty will need to be honored for.
For stoves, fridges, and freezers, the warranty is 6 years. A washer, dryer, or dishwasher will have a 5-year warranty, 4 years for a TV, and 3 years for a laptop or cell phone. A coalition of appliance retailers wants a delay until 2027.
We think that the proposed warranty duration of 5-year or 6-year, depending on the product category, is particularly onerous. It would be amongst the highest in the world.
He says there is a lack of technicians to repair appliances, and with longer warranties, manufacturers could increase their prices. Those higher costs will be passed on to the consumer.
Manufacturers who need to honor a 5 or 6 year warranty will build in those potential costs into the base value of the product and the base price of the product that they sell to retailers and that retailers then sell to consumers.
Option Consommateur points out Bill 29 was passed in 2023, giving retailers years to prepare. Sarah-Ève Levac says Quebec already has legal warranty laws since 1978.
Now the legal warranty has no set period. So if I buy a fridge, the law says that it has to have a reasonable lifespan. And tribunals have said that it will be 10, 12, 15 years, depending on the fridge.
She says this new law helps with clarity.
The warranty of good working order will make it clear that a fridge has to work for 6 years. And this information will have to be given to consumers when they go to the store to buy their fridge.
CTV contacted Simon Jolin Barret's office, who tabled the bill, but did not receive a comment by deadline. The coalition of retailers is not against Bill 29, but says it wants a meeting with Quebec and manufacturers to help protect consumers' purchasing power. Matt Grillo, CTV News.
There's going to be a class action suit against Amazon Prime. It's led by a Quebec man who claims the company is not meeting its promised delivery times. The lead plaintiff is claiming that deliveries were late because Amazon closed all its warehouses in Quebec in January of 2025. The suit requests a refund for the Prime subscription or a discount, as well as punitive damages. The class action has been approved by Quebec Superior Court. The allegations have not been tested in court. The Fréchette government is being criticized for not coming through on a promise that was made to help students. According to Quebec Solidaire MNA Gabrielle Nadeau-Dubois, the budget for the Student Food Assistance Program for the next academic year is below the anticipated level of inflation.
We're going to see less food served to students because the budgets are going to increase slower than the inflation rate. So you do not need to be an economist to understand that if your budget raises less than the inflation rate, you have at the end of the day less money for students, which is completely in contradiction with the promise that Madame Fréchette did, which was to protect students from future compressions.
Education Minister Sonia Lebel has responded. She says the budget for education is going up by 3%. She says that's higher than the inflation rate and that food aid will also come from community groups. Two new polls are showing a two-way race between the Liberals and the Parti Québécois, with the CAQ seeing some gains under a new leader. The Synopsis poll conducted for La Presse finds 30% of voters support the PQ and 30% back the Liberals. They're followed by the CAQ, that's up slightly to 18%. The Conservatives are at 13%. Quebec Solidaire is at 8%. Those numbers are also very close to what was found by a Paladatas poll for L'Actualité.
The poll has good news for us. It's been almost 3 years now with the PQ leading and being the favorite party for a majority of Quebecers. A part of that, we'll continue to work with conviction in preparing our offer to Quebecers.
I think it's a tight race between the Parti Québécois and us at 30%. I think the Quebecers are done with the CAQ. They have done so many damage when it comes to public services and the economy.
A lot of Canadians are having a hard time separating fact from fiction, especially online. Heather Wright has more on a new StatsCan report on misinformation.
I am not Morgan Freeman, and what you see is not real.
The line between what's real and what's fake is getting blurrier. According to a new survey, 80% of Canadians saw news or information online they suspected to be misleading or false at least once a month. And nearly half of Canadians say they are finding it harder to distinguish between fact and fiction.
What I think is more worrying is not the misinformation people see online that they recognize as misinformation. It's the misinformation they see online and actually believe.
Angus Lockhart is a policy analyst at the DAIS, a think tank at Toronto Metropolitan University. He says while the spread of mis and disinformation has been increasing for years, AI is making it easier to create fake or misleading content, specifically deepfake videos.
We're seeing very quick rises in the number of deepfakes that are posted and shared online. And that's one of the scariest ones because that technology is only getting better and only making it harder to judge what's real and what's fake online.
The misinformation survey also found more than 60% of Canadians are very or extremely concerned about online misinformation. But experts say not enough is being done by the government or by big tech.
Unfortunately, there is a lack of scrutiny on these big tech companies.
Ahmed Al-Rawi is a communications professor at Simon Fraser University and says social media companies have shown an inability to police the content that's on their platforms. And more onus needs to be put on the government to enact stricter rules.
The only language they understand is the language of financial penalties. So once you send warnings regarding these penalties, I think they will start listening.
Experts say it is vital to fact-check information found online, especially on social media, though they acknowledge it is something that's getting harder to do. Heather Wright, CTV News, Toronto.
A Canadian businessman and space station visitor has made a major gift to Concordia School of Engineering and Computer Science. $15 million to be used to help train the next generation of space engineers. Stéphane Giroux has more on that.
This is a very exciting day, and it's been a long time in the planning.
Mark Paddy is one of a handful of private citizens who bought a seat on the International Space Station 4 years ago. He's back home in Montreal to hand a $15 million check to Concordia University's School of Engineering.
My hope is that this institute helps them to go further than they would have thought possible, that it gives them the tools and the confidence to collaborate, to build, and ultimately to lead.
The endowment will create the Mark Paddy Institute. It will bring under one roof specialties in robotics, propulsion, human space health, and sustainability.
This institute will facilitate bringing together all those different elements of the school that in many cases already exist, but being able to channel them together into a new stream around space.
The space engineering students were invited to show their appreciation to Mark Paddy.
It's basically a dream for someone to go into space. But nowadays, with all the technologies, with all the support from the industry, from the government, and from the academia, I think that become a reality. So I think our students knew about it, and they will try their best to become the next astronaut. That's what they dream of.
I mean, this brings great attention to the university. Hopefully it inspires other people to think generously about us. And I think the reason why Mark has made this gift is because he recognizes that Concordia is a leader nationally in the field of space research and development at the university level and training.
For Concordia, it's one giant leap taken to train the next generation of space innovators. Stéphane Giroux, CTV News.
The astronauts from the Artemis 2 mission paid a visit to Parliament Hill today.
For us to be here, our first return to the country, a warm embrace of Canada that we felt from the extremes of the moon is just a real treat for us.
Canadian astronauts Jeremy Hansen and Jenny Gibbons, along with the rest of the Artemis crew, met with the Prime Minister, Mark Carney.
It's a big, big lesson, I think, for all Canadians of what teamwork does, what dedication does, what courage does, what human ingenuity is capable of, and that it's just the beginning. So welcome to Ottawa, and thank you for what you've already done. Thank you for inspiring us.
The Prime Minister was given a plaque bearing the Canadian flag that was on board the Orion capsule during the mission. Coming up, moving closer to a West Coast pipeline.
Having investment in our own energy sovereignty. And I think in these circumstances, we need to adapt and we need to invest.
There could be a major announcement this week. And Alec Murdaugh, a court has reversed his murder conviction. There was a not guilty verdict today for a former RCMP officer accused of being a double agent and working for the Chinese government. A judge said the Crown failed to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that William Miker did anything illegal. Judy Trin reports.
In her decision, Justice Martha Devlin said the Crown did not prove that Miker intended to act primarily for the PRC's benefit or that he was in fact directed by the Chinese government. No one can be said to be prepared to do something they had no intention of doing, she said. The Crown's case hinged on an email chain intercepted by the FBI. In the emails, Miker refers to a real estate mogul in Vancouver with more than $100 million in assets. He wrote that he wants to impress upon the crook that we hold his future. But Miker's alleged target, Kevin's son, was never mentioned in that email. The Crown said Miker was involved in China's Project Fox Hunt and wanted to pressure Son to return to China to collect a bounty. Miker was arrested in July 2023 and charged while visiting Canada from Hong Kong. Here's what he said after he was found not guilty.
I live on the other side of the world and have for the last 20 years. So without my wife, my children especially, they're still of a young age. So they've been 3 years without their father. That's time I'll never get back. They'll never get back.
5 years ago, CSIS issued an espionage alert about William Miker. The retired Mountie had moved from Canada to Hong Kong, where he had started a business helping state-owned enterprises recoup their assets. CSIS was concerned that Miker was somehow gathering information for China after the arrest of Meng Wanzhou and the detention of the two Michaels. Judy Trin, CTV News, Ottawa.
Donald Trump has arrived in China for a high-stakes summit with Chinese President Xi Jinping. Trump landed in Beijing to a military honor guard and cheering crowds. He will meet with Xi tomorrow. Trump has said that trade will be the main focus of the talks, but Iran and Taiwan are also expected to be on the agenda. A cruise ship is in lockdown in Bordeaux, France. A 92-year-old passenger has died and dozens of other people are ill. Officials say this outbreak, though, is not related to the Hantavirus. The cruise ship is part of the British-owned Ambassador Cruise Lines, and there are more than 1,700 passengers and crew on board. Officials say 48 passengers are showing symptoms of what is suspected to be a norovirus. A pipeline that would transport Alberta crude to the west coast is becoming closer to a reality. Prime Minister Mark Carney will be traveling to Alberta to meet with Premier Daniel Smith on Friday. Graham Richardson reports.
After years of opposition and protests, pipeline politics are changing. What seemed entirely unlikely just 18 months ago is now one major step closer.
Are you willing to allow a new pipeline?
The Prime Minister not confirming it, but sources telling CTV News his government and Alberta are set to announce a deal on a new pipeline to the West Coast.
I think it's a great thing for the industry, and it's a great thing for Canada.
This is one part of a complex process, and it was telegraphed last week by Alberta Premier Daniel Smith in Ottawa.
Sometimes it happens that you get the two principals in the room and you kind of sort through what some of the disagreements are, and I felt like we sorted through a lot today, had a meeting of the minds, and I'm hoping that we'll be able to announce an agreement very soon.
A key sticking point was the industrial carbon price rising higher each year. Sources say the Carney Liberals have agreed to slow the growth in the price significantly. Under the plan introduced in 2016, the carbon price was supposed to hit $170 per ton by 2030. Now that will be reduced and only hit $130 a ton by 2040.
Having investment in our own energy sovereignty. And I think in these circumstances, we need to adapt and we need to invest.
Some environmental groups would not openly criticize the shift, but they are clearly disappointed.
We've been suggesting that getting to $130 a ton for the Alberta industrial carbon price by 2030 was a reasonable and effective deadline. Instead, it looks like that's going to happen by 2040, fully a decade later. So that is disappointing.
Of course, hanging over all of this is years of acrimony between Alberta and Ottawa. Will this change all of that? Probably not, but it will be seen as one of the first positive steps in many years. Graham Richardson, CTV News, Ottawa.
A major wildfire northwest of Edmonton has been contained. The fire near Whitecourt burned more than 50 hectares of forest. Firefighters are still dealing with hot spots, and more than 400 people have yet to return to their homes. In South Carolina, a court has overturned Alec Murdaugh's murder conviction. Murdaugh was found guilty of killing his wife and son and had been the subject of podcasts and documentaries. Ashman Singh has more.
This morning, a major legal victory for disgraced South Carolina attorney Alec Murdaugh.
Verdict, guilty.
The South Carolina Supreme Court unanimously overturning his 2023 murder convictions and life sentences in the shooting deaths of his wife and younger son. The court ruling that the conduct of Colleton County Clerk of Court Becky Hill egregiously attacked Murdaugh's credibility during the trial. Justices say Hill improperly influenced the jury. She pleaded guilty to perjury and obstruction of justice for lying about her contact with the press, and to misconduct in office for improperly promoting a book about the case. The court also finding the trial judge allowed too much testimony and evidence about Murdaugh's financial crimes into the murder case. Murdaugh's lawyers had long argued that evidence, including allegations he stole millions from clients, prejudiced the jury against him. Prosecutors maintained the evidence against Murdaugh for the murders was overwhelming, including video recorded by his son just minutes before the killings that placed him at the family's dog kennels. Murdaugh has always denied killing his wife and son, even while admitting to years of fraud, theft, lying, and financial crimes.
I'm innocent. I would never hurt my wife, Maggie, and I would never hurt my son, Pawpaw.
But even with his murder convictions now overturned, Alec Murdaugh is still not walking free. He's still serving a 40-year federal prison sentence after pleading guilty to stealing millions of dollars from his clients. Ashman Singh, ABC News, New York.
Coming up, they're having trouble paying the bills.
You know, we know that about half of Canadian households are living paycheck to paycheck.
Seems too many Canadians are carrying too much debt. And after Hantavirus, new questions about rodents and handling garbage. Ten Canadians are under observation for possible exposure to Hantavirus. The outbreak has raised questions about just how dangerous droppings from other rodents can be. Dr. Donald Vinn is an infectious disease specialist at the MUHC. Hi, Don.
Hi, Mitsumi.
So the hantavirus from the cruise ship is not native to North America, but that doesn't mean we should assume rodent droppings here carry no risk.
That's absolutely right, Mitsumi. Even though this specific outbreak involves the South American hantavirus called the Andes virus, North America, and that includes Canada, has its own hantavirus called Cenombre virus, which is carried by deer mice and white-footed mice. Now, these mice are found across Canada, especially in rural and semi-rural areas, and they often live in cabins and garages and barns and woodpiles. Now in Canada, hantavirus infections remain rare, but they do occur. Since the 1990s, there have been about 150 confirmed human cases, mostly in western provinces such as BC and the prairies. But importantly, hantavirus is not the only concern. Rodent excrement can harbor other infections like salmonella, leptospirosis, and another virus called LCMV. So anywhere mice, or really rodents more broadly, are present, there is a potential, albeit low, risk of exposure to various germs. And so really the bottom line, rodent droppings should never be assumed to be harmless, even here in Canada.
But what is it exactly about excrements that can transmit these viruses and bacteria such as the hantavirus?
Yeah, so the key issue is that the infected rodents can carry the virus without appearing sick, by the way, and they shed it in their urine, droppings, and saliva, which then contaminates the environment around them. What's important and often not appreciated is that the hantavirus doesn't disappear right away. It can remain present and transmissible in excrement or contaminated nesting material for days and sometimes weeks, especially in cool environments. So when that contaminated material dries out and then gets disturbed, it can release aerosolized particles, and this is the dominant mode of transmission. It's not touching the droppings, but it's inhaling particles after they're disturbed. And this is why activities like sweeping, vacuuming, cleaning enclosed areas like garages or cabins, and disturbing rodent nests, they're all risky. They turn contaminated waste into airborne exposure. So even if the droppings look old and dry, they can still pose a risk.
Now, there was some speculation that the couple who first contracted hantavirus on that cruise ship might have visited a garbage dump in Argentina to do some bird watching. Being in contact and walking through a lot of garbage then, does that seem like a possible scenario?
Yeah, so there's one theory suggests that the index case was a passenger who may have been infected at a landfill site on the outskirts of Ushuaia, where tourists apparently sometimes go bird watching, but where waste attracts rats and mice. It's said that the landfill was so overrun by trash that even local residents avoided it, which is a pretty good sign that it shouldn't have been on the tourists' itinerary, you know? But garbage dumps and landfills are the perfect setting for rodent populations to intersect with human activity. Because in that setting, infection can happen through exposure to rodent excrement that's contaminating the environment that becomes airborne dust when you're rummaging through the area. And even brief exposure can be enough, and symptoms may not appear for weeks. And that's why it makes it difficult to pinpoint exactly where someone was infected. And while we still need confirmation, the scenario that you mentioned is biologically plausible.
What risks then for people just generally being around garbage pose for us? I mean, people cleaning around their homes, as you say, or in their garages. People who go dumpster diving, for example. What risks are they taking?
So the concern is not ordinary garbage itself or cleaning per se, right? The risk arises in situations where you have the following combination: presence of rodents with their excrement, saliva, or nesting material having contaminated the area, and then cleaning or movement that disturbs these materials, releasing the particles into the air. That's why certain situations are recognized high risk for hantavirus exposure, including cleaning garages, cottages, and sheds that have been closed for long periods of time, construction, demolition, or renovation in rodent-infested spaces, and certain occupations such as farming, pest control, obviously, and waste handling. And I suppose dumpster diving, and now we can add visiting landfills of waste to the list of activities that are high risk for acquiring rodent-related infections.
So what precautions should we be taking then when we are cleaning or disposing of garbage that's possibly contaminated?
Right, so I just want to distinguish that this cruise-related outbreak is very different from the typical hantavirus we see in Canada, right? So for the cruise-related outbreak, because the South American Andes virus can spread from person to person, public health authorities are using measures like isolation, contact tracing, and clinical monitoring of exposed individuals. But by contrast, the regular hantaviruses we see in Canada, which is the Cenombre virus, it's not known to spread person to person. So here, prevention focuses on avoiding exposure to rodent contamination. That means to never sweep or vacuum rodent droppings, ventilate enclosed areas before cleaning, wear gloves, and certainly in high-risk situations, an N95 or similar mask. You can wet down droppings and contaminated surfaces with disinfectant or diluted bleach before wiping them up, and dispose of waste in sealed bags. But unfortunately, for either of these viruses, we still lack good vaccines and treatments. And so to that point, Mitsumi, the lesson from COVID and Mpox should have been very clear that preparedness requires investing in research before the next outbreak, not during it. And we need to remember that, and we need to put science back at the forefront.
Okay. Thank you very much for this, Don.
Thank you, Mitsumi.
Well, the Habs flew to Buffalo today after losing to the Sabres last night.
Flipped away, and the Canadians are running out of time.
The game ended 3-2 after a power play goal by Zach Benson in the third period. The series is now tied at 2 games apiece. Game 5 is tomorrow in Buffalo.
Obviously, we were here before, back and forth series in the first round, and we expected the same versus Buffalo. They're a great team and in a good spot. We just have to focus on tomorrow, try and go in their building and win a game and head back home. But can take a lot of positives from last night and some things to clean up and get ready for tomorrow.
No, I mean, it's a tight series, and as a young team, we got a lot of experience in that first round against an older team, and we're ready to face anything. And like I said, we just got to go in Buffalo and do our best, and I think a good thing will happen.
Game 6 will be at the Bell Center Saturday night. Whichever team wins the series will face the Carolina Hurricanes in the Eastern Conference Final. The Montreal Victoire will play for the Walter Cup, and for the first time, the PWHL final is all Canadian. The Victoire beat the defending champions, the Minnesota Frost, 2-1 last night to move on to the finals. The Victoire will host the Ottawa Charge at Place Bell tomorrow night for Game 1 of the Walter Cup finals.
I feel like there's good rivalry between every team in this league, but certainly the history that we have with Ottawa, there's rivalry there. Also, our fans are so close together that there's an opportunity for people to kind of travel back and forth, which is really cool. I think our league continues to grow the game, on both sides of the border, and I think that people are really excited.
And the PWHL is expanding. It is adding Hamilton and Las Vegas next season, and that brings the number of teams in the league to 11. The NBA's Jason Collins has died. He made league history by becoming the first openly gay player. Jason played in the NBA for 13 seasons, and then he served as a global ambassador for the sport. He was also an outspoken advocate for LGBTQ+ communities. Jason Collins died of brain cancer. He was 47 years old.
Weather brought to you by Gratian Scaff's 50th anniversary gift event. Get a complete second pair and sunglasses as a gift.
Well, the rain has already begun. We've seen so far 2 millimeters, and we're going to have more on the way over the next 24 hours, along with the continuation of cooler than seasonal temperatures. Today's daytime high was only 10 degrees when we should be typically hitting 19, but the good news is our longer range forecast, we will be surpassing that 19 degrees. Now, here's what we're forecasting over the next 24 hours. Periods of showers. So we can see that system is a little spotty. It looks like at 10 we get a break in the rain, but by midnight that system is larger and it continues. Into the early morning hours, it looks like around 3 a.m. we could see some heavier rainfall, and then we start our day off yet again with more showers. Now, this could impact your morning commute, so just leave extra time if need be. And into the afternoon, once again, that system is a little spotty, so we'll see periods of rain throughout the afternoon. And into the evening, it looks like it's sticking around. It's really lingering. It's sitting south of Montreal, but by around 1 or 2 a.m., that system has pushed, and Montreal is going to be sitting under cloudy skies at 7. However, if we continue our futurecast, we can reveal that we will see some sunshine come Friday. So we just have to get through another 24 hours of some rain. We're seeing a low of 9 degrees overnight, an additional 10 millimeters of rain. We start the day off with yet again more showers, and then into the afternoon, we're expecting to hit a daytime high of 13 degrees and anticipating another 10 millimeters of rain. Here is our longer range forecast. This is the good news portion of my hit. We see that on Friday we'll hit a high of 20. 24 will be the high on Saturday. There's a very slight chance that we could see a passing shower, only 1 millimeter estimated later in the day on Saturday. Mostly sunny skies will be dominating the forecast there. Holding on to sunshine for Sunday. Monday, a mix of sun and clouds, a high of 20. On Tuesday, we could see 28 and more rain with the risk of a thunderstorm. And now we have a Lotto reminder for you. On tonight's Lotto 649 draw, you could win $44 million. Good luck.
It's going to be a tough summer for young people who are looking for work. The unemployment rate for Canadians aged between 15 and 24 rose last month. It's now 14.3%. Youth unemployment rose more than 1% in February and another half point in April. More Canadians filed for bankruptcy in the first 3 months of this year than in any other quarter since the global financial crisis almost 20 years ago. And there's a growing concern more households are carrying too much debt. Here's Pat Ford.
According to the Office of the Superintendent of Bankruptcy, more than 37,000 Canadians either filed a consumer proposal or declared bankruptcy during the first 3 months of this year. That's an increase of 8.5% over the same period in 2025.
I'm not surprised by these numbers. We know that about half of Canadian households are living paycheck to paycheck, which means, they have no savings.
The Canadian Association of Insolvency and Restructuring Professionals says Canadians are carrying record amounts of debt. Many mortgages will come due this year at higher interest rates. Rising food and gas prices, along with other factors, are pushing some households to the brink. In about 80% of cases, clients choose a consumer proposal instead of bankruptcy, which allows them to have a fixed monthly payment and stops interest from accumulating.
Most of the time, they will pay less than what they owe. It's based on their budget and capacity to pay. And you keep your assets in a proposal. In a bankruptcy, you may lose assets.
Almost 14,000 people in Ontario filed consumer proposals and bankruptcy so far this year. That's almost a 15% increase over the year before.
The rate of increase in insolvencies is a lot worse in Ontario than it is in the rest of Canada because we are the engine of the economy.
Licensed insolvency trustee Doug Hoy says tariffs have been detrimental to Ontario and says increasing unemployment remains a concern.
I suspect that we will see a continued, perhaps gradual, but certainly increase in the number of personal insolvencies filed in Ontario for many months to come.
Hoyes recommends keeping debt levels low and to curb your expenses. Anyone facing financial hardships can seek the advice of a licensed insolvency trustee. There is usually no charge for the first meeting. Pat Foran, CTV News.
And coming up, a long-range repair job.
You saw that something is not working or not normal. Then you looked at the pictures, woo.
The Mars rover is now stuck with a rock.
Menswear provided by Ernest. Elevate your style with Ernest. Your Health, brought to you by Gratian Scaff's 50th anniversary gift event. Get a complete second pair and sunglasses as a gift.
There's a new treatment for Alzheimer's disease. Seniors now represent 1/5 of the population, and with that, there are growing concerns about a rise in cognitive disorders such as Alzheimer's. Health Canada has approved another treatment that slows the progression of the disease.
The approval from Health Canada of Kisunla and then prior to this one of lecanemab, Leqembi, to us is the entry in a totally new era of treatment of Alzheimer's disease. So you have to realize that before these two treatments, we had no molecule that was targeting the underlying pathology of Alzheimer's disease. So we were, in many ways, treating the symptoms, but with no significant impact on the underlying process. So, like I mentioned, for us, it's the entry in a new era, because now we feel we can really have an impact on the degenerative process.
There is more on this interview on our website, ctvnewsmontreal.ca. In Ontario, there is a new option in the dairy aisle. It is 6% milk. Agripure, that's the parent company of Seal Test, says there's been growing interest in higher fat milk options, especially among South Asian communities. Health Canada recommends 3.25% milk for toddlers up to 24 months old and lower fat options for everyone else.
Business News brought to you by Au Vieux de Louvre, where memories and meals come together.
There is a big deal in Canadian mining. It's a merger that will create an $18 billion company. Morella Fernandez has more on that.
Equinox Gold is buying Orla Mining in a cash and stock deal worth just over $5 billion US. Combined, the new entity would be the second largest Canadian gold producer, with 6 mines across Canada, the US, Nicaragua, and Mexico. Together, they would produce more than 1 million ounces of gold a year. But the CEO of Equinox says he aims to double output. Shareholders will vote on the deal in July. Here are the closing numbers for the day. The Canadian dollar is up a fraction to 72.96. West Texas Intermediate down over $1 to 101.02. Western Canadian Select up over $3 to 81.43. And the TSX lost 249 points today. Those are your business headlines. I'm Morella Fernandez.
A NASA rover on Mars has run into a problem. But how do you remove a rock from more than 200 million kilometers away? Here's Spencer Turcotte.
Repairing a robot with a rock stuck to its arm sounds like a tall task to begin with. But what do you do when that robot is on Mars and you're not?
You saw that something is not working or not normal. Then you looked at the pictures, woo.
NASA's Curiosity rover found itself in a sticky situation, all thanks to its curiosity. It drilled a sample from a 28-pound rock, but when the rover retracted its arm, the entire rock lifted from the ground, firmly attached.
We are looking at rocks, we are figuring out what they are made of, how they look, and once in a while we drill into the rock to extract powder to be analyzed by 2 big instruments looking for mineralogy and one looking for even organic material.
It's not as simple as telling the robot to shake it off. And with so much vital equipment on the rover, including the University of Guelph's alpha particle X-ray spectrometer, this became much more than a strange moment caught on camera.
We're talking about distances so far away that you can have 7 to 10 minute long lapses in communication. So an entire strategy had to be come up with. To my knowledge, they have not yet had this problem.
NASA engineers tried vibrating the drill to remove the Martian rock. No luck. Then they repositioned the arm. Still, the rock refused to let go. But after about a week and multiple attempts, the rock was freed, sending it crashing back to the red planet's surface.
Woo.
The rover survived without damage, as did the scientific instrument operated by U of G researchers.
I think people are nervous when you have an issue like this, is this the end of the Curiosity rover? Well, in this case, it wasn't. We were able to push through and continue to gather data from it for hopefully years to come.
So Curiosity can now roll on with its Mars mission, making sure it leaves no stone unturned. Spencer Turcotte, CTV News, Kitchener.
We've often been told to ice an injury, but new research is suggesting otherwise. Now, Angela, this study is out of McGill.
Yes, Matsumi, so researchers there looked into the long-held view that icing an injury like a sprained ankle or sore muscle reduces pain and swelling. And they found that practice could delay recovery and even prolong pain in the long run. Their work is part of a growing body of research looking into common anti-inflammatory strategies. We'll have the details coming up at 11:30.
Thanks very much, Angela.
Stay with us. We've got another full night of great shows for you right here tonight on CTV.
The dress that Celine Dion wore during the opening ceremonies at the Paris Olympics is coming to Montreal. The gown will be displayed at the McCord Stewart Museum in an exhibit called Celine in Dior. Dion wore the gown at the Eiffel Tower during her comeback performance in 2024. The gown has been on display since in France and in South Korea. This will mark its North American debut.
We have many Dior dresses here actually from the very first decade of the house, from the 1940s and 50s. And so I've seen these haute couture garments up close, and it's always a pleasure to see a recent one and realize that the same quality of work is still being done. We wanted to feature not just the dress, but allow the public to really live the moment that made the dress an icon.
And Lauren, there's still rain in the area.
Yeah, that's right. So Celine Dion's heart will go on. The rain will go on tonight and into tomorrow. We will continue to see periods of rain throughout the day. Now let's see what else we have in store. So our overnight low will be 9 degrees. This is actually on the milder side. We're anticipating 10 millimeters tonight, a wake-up temperature of 11, periods of rain throughout the day, an additional 10 millimeters, and only a high of 13 degrees. But this is all setting the base for a beautiful garden that we can enjoy in the summer, which may be coming sooner than we expect.
And that's it for us. Have a good evening. Stay well. Good night.